This is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins. The contract negotiations between the producers and the Broadway stagehands drags on. There could be a strike anytime, and if there is one, what would be the impact on the businesses surrounding Broadway? We are here at Angus McIndoe restaurant to get one person's very important opinion. Here to introduce him, Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
And we are here with Angus McIndoe, who owns a very popular restaurant in the theater district, to talk about the possible strike. Angus, we're in this very strange period now, kind of limbo land, where, you know, at least for a month or so, there's not going to be a strike. Is that having any effect on your business at all, and are people worried about the possibility of a strike?
Well, they're certainly worried about it, and they're talking about it, but you're right, it's kind of, we're in limbo at the moment, just waiting to see what happens.
Do you get a sense that people are not making plans ahead into December because they keep hearing there might be a strike, so they're holding back on booking tickets and booking their time in the theater?
I don't get a real sense of that. I mean, people ask me every day what I'm doing in preparation for the strike that may or may not happen, but I mean, you know, what can you do?
And what are you doing in preparation for it?
Waiting to see what happens and biting my fingernails a little more than I normally do.
Now, you lived through the musicians' strike about 4 or 5 years ago now. That was a 3 or 4 day strike. What financial impact did that have on your business?
You know, a major financial impact because, as you know, we're right at the sort of crossroads of the theatre district. So
I remember the first night, though, there was a kind of, it felt like a sort of a snow day, and everybody was here, and all the kids were not in their shows,
yes,
and running around having a good time.
They announced the strike. Every performer on Broadway comes over here and has a drink and says, "Oh, we're on strike." You're exactly right, and then the truth sets in.
The next day.
Yeah, and then it's much easier to get a reservation here pre-theatre than it normally is.
Exactly.
And then you just have to muddle through. You know, fortunately that strike wasn't as protracted as it could have been. But trust me, it was long enough to do some really serious damage here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're dependent on the theatre. We're a theatre district restaurant.
Now, you know, the stagehands, this is a very, very serious negotiation going on now, and I do not get the sense that they're going to fold up the tents so quickly. What would something like a 3-week strike do to this industry and the industries surrounding Broadway?
To Broadway, I don't know, you'd have to ask the producers, but to the restaurant business,
yeah,
to take away December from Angus McIndoe restaurant, if you take away December from Angus McIndoe restaurant, there might not be January, February, or March. It's as simple as that.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. We are very seasonal in nature. This business has huge highs and lows. The summers are very quiet because there's no shows open, and when the season sort of starts kicking in at the end of October, beginning of November, that's us sort of going full speed ahead to the end of the year. So we're really cranking by the time December comes along. What can I do? Keep my fingers crossed. Hope that the parties involved are being sensible and mature and realize what's at stake and who's going to be affected by this. I mean, it's of sorts. I guess it's kind of like a divorce where I think everybody's going to lose, and you just hope that cooler heads prevail and that everybody loses as little as possible.
But even if the strike only lasts a week or so, there's still an impact to be felt beyond that, because a lot of shows may not come back. You lose those shows, you lose that business. Drowsy Chaperone down the street closes, weak show right now. If it can't come back after a strike, that's 1,000 people a night gone from your customer base.
Exactly.
And people call and they cancel reservations and just,
Or they don't call.
Right.
They don't show. That's a popular way of doing things. But yeah, absolutely, it lasts for a long time. No, the impact on my business, and I would imagine any other of the sort of peripheral theatre district businesses, would be absolutely massive because of the time of year.
Now, you have a restaurant here where everybody in industry floats through. What are you picking up from the stagehands? Do you talk to them? They're next door?
I talk to everybody, and I get a different story from everybody. So I really don't have. I'm not on any side or any. I don't have any words of wisdom for the involved parties, except possibly the mayor. I kind of got the feeling last time that he bolted barn door after the horses that had already bolted.
Yeah.
And so maybe, get involved. This is big deal stuff. Maybe when the Red Sox win the series, he'll pay a little more attention to this problem.
Well, the mayor offered to get involved, and his offer was turned down by the stagehands because they don't want the pressure of the mayor on them to make a deal that they don't want to make.
I mean, does he? Can you turn the mayor down when he's?
Yes, you can. In fact, he's got no. I mean, the mayor himself has said he has no no power to force a deal. He can put public pressure on. He can encourage the parties to come together. That's what he's done. He said, I will be happy to meet with them anytime to talk this through. But he himself has acknowledged, I cannot force people to make a deal.
Well, then I wish he could, or I wish somebody else could.
Yeah.
Some kind of mediation, or just get them talking so that they can resolve it.
Now, Angus, you've got the Grinch loading in next door, and I see a whole bunch of stagehands sitting around out there. Do you ever run out there and say, get back to work, guys?
You see a bunch of stagehands there? I mean, they're loading the show in, and I believe they start previews next week.
All right.
So like I said, I got to be optimistic. At least I get November.
Right.
But it's 15 shows a week.
Yeah, the Grinches.
It's a huge show. We've never operated this restaurant with a new show coming in to the St. James Theatre, because when we opened the restaurant, the producers was already open.
Yeah.
So this is a really big deal for us. It's a huge schedule. It could be very lucrative. It could be, very excited about it. But see what happens in December, because it's not going to be that exciting if they have to shut down.
Right.
Just think of all of the people that are going to be disappointed, affected, hurt, and damaged by a protracted strike.
All right. Well, if it happens, I'll make sure I come in with a whole bunch of theater critics.
Please, like I said, it's going to
pay the bar bills.
It's going to be very easy to get a table, Angus, if there's a strike. So that's looking on the bright side.
All right, Angus. Thanks a lot for your time.
You're very welcome, Michael.
I shall make a duchess of this dragon-tailed gutter snipe. Yes! In 6 months. In 3, if she has a good ear and a quick tongue, I'll take her anywhere and pass her off as anything. We'll start today. Now, this moment. Take her away and clean her, Mrs. Pierce. A monkey brand, if it won't come off any other way.
For a long time, the critical fraternity, and it really was a fraternity because there are very few women in it, was getting a little long in the tooth there, but young people are breaking through into the ranks of the drama critics of New York, and we're very happy tonight to be joined by Melissa Rose Bernardo from Entertainment Weekly and our friend Jeremy McCarter from New York Magazine. Welcome, sprightly young things.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we just want to get a sense of some of the shows that you've been seeing this fall. Let us know what's good and what's not so good. We just had an opening of Pygmalion at the Roundabout Theater Company with Jefferson Mays and the movie star Claire Danes. And Melissa, is Claire Danes capable of performing on the stage?
She is. I think it's the best movie star debut I've seen in quite some time. First of all, you can hear her, so she's one leg up on
that's a big step.
Julia Roberts and everyone else. She's very poised. She's incredibly comfortable on stage. Personally, I think she's a little miscast.
Why?
I think she's a little too refined for Eliza. I think she's missing a kind of earthy quality that she needs, but I think she's very precise and she has a lot of fun with it, and I think she's quite terrific.
She's got charisma. She's just got wonderful
she really
charisma.
Does.
Has she bested Julia Roberts?
Yes, though that's not the highest bar.
But you like her too?
I did. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. To be honest, my expectations weren't all that high going in, but I thought she was quite good, and I liked the show overall. It got widely mixed reviews.
Interesting. I was looking at the reviews. It really divided the critics. I mean, I know Ben Brantley from The Times was really down on it, and David Rooney from Variety, but Couchoir at the AP and LeSueur loved it. What is it about a certain show that will divide critics like that way? Usually, guys, you guys run in a pack.
It's true. It's really hard to say with this one because I've only read a few of them. But,
and you liked it, yeah.
And I did like it. And it doesn't break down on any of the usual lines. It's not, there's some people who are sort of less enthusiastic about musicals, some people more enthusiastic about the revivals of the great old plays. This one's all over the map. I think people wrote just, what they thought, which is,
this is such a marvelous
rare.
play, and I think no one goes away from that. I think they're sort of breaking down in their perception of Jefferson Mays and the relationship established on the stage between him and Eliza Doolittle, Claire Danes. Some feel that these two can, from, as Ben Brantley put it, separate universes can go along and be there because the play is so strong, and others feel that as a casting issue, why are these two people who just have zero they're from two different planets.
Right.
Why are they in this production together?
Right, and what I liked is that they seem to come from two different planets, and they don't have. I mean, there's a way in which Jefferson's ease on stage, because he's a fantastic actor, and Claire Danes' slight nervousness on stage, I think, really underscores what the play is about, the dynamic between those two characters, in a way that I found pretty compelling. And Jefferson, that performance that he gives, he takes some. I guess you could say it takes guts on television to make the choices that he makes to play Higgins in this eccentric fashion, but I bought it. I bought it completely.
You're not so crazy about Jefferson Mays, Tony Award-winning actor?
The issue I had with it, especially at the end, is he plays him as such a mama's boy, such an overgrown child. Clearly, he's sort of looking for a mother figure. Claire Danes Eliza is not that mother figure. There's nothing maternal or warm or anything like that about her. So what is it that draws these two characters together? There's certainly no hint of romance between them. There's no kind of spark or anything. So why would they need each other? Why would they want to remain in each other's lives? Why would there even be a question? If she was just a project that he was done with, then she's done with them. So this whole conversation about remaining in each other's lives that goes on for like a half hour, really the scene is kind of endless. That was what I was having trouble buying. Like, why wouldn't they just kind of part ways, you know?
The experiment's over with, so on.
Thank you. It's been great. Thanks for the clothes. You know,
Seems to be a pretty devastating attack, though, on this production if there is not that spark of chemistry, of sexual chemistry between them in some way, unspoken though it may be.
Right. The last scene where that's supposed to percolate up, I didn't really like how it was staged by David Grinley. They just literally sit on a couch for about 20 minutes, and it's one of those ways where I think you sort of need to help what Shaw is trying to do.
But Shaw was not trying to have sexual chemistry, and so there are those who would argue...
Well, that's wrong.
That may be wrong, but the fact is that
your interpretation's just wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. Jefferson Mays is no Leslie Howard. He is not this man with roiling sexiness, or Rex Harrison. But it is said that Shaw objected to having such a sexual being to imply that there would be this relationship. For instance, Shaw did not like the end of My Fair Lady, where they really got back together.
I can see why Shaw would have been, maybe not have liked the My Fair Lady, although I know he loved the money that came in from My Fair Lady. But yes, he doesn't want them. That's a pat, stupid Broadway ending where they come back and they're going to get married. That's not what it's about, though. But there is sexual tension there.
But there's something else that comes out from this production. Boyd Gaines plays Pickering, and he's excellent. And Jefferson Mays and Boyd Gaines were in Journey's End together, and from what I've read, they're good friends too. And so it ends up, the three main characters, it becomes this sort of love story, but not in the usual way. It's so clear that Eliza loves Pickering, and Pickering loves Eliza, and Higgins loves Pickering, and Pickering loves Higgins, and so it becomes
and
like
Higgins loves Higgins.
And Higgins loves Higgins, absolutely. But it becomes, I mean, the three people form these triangular relationships that I think are really compelling, and I don't think come out very much in the other productions that I've seen.
That is interesting because in the Michael Holroyd's biography of Shaw, one of the key moments in Shaw's life was when his mother's lover moved into the house with him and his mother's husband. His parents were living with his mother's lover, so that menage a trois Shaw saw at a very early age, and I think that is a theme that runs through many of his plays.
And so David Grinley, the director, so brilliantly saw that this dynamic in Shaw and put this menage a trois on the stage brilliantly at the Roundabout.
I like the productions for sure. I'll give him credit for having seen something there.
All right, now, Melissa, were the sexual sparks flying in the gay bathhouse in the Ritz, which is another Roundabout production that's just recently opened with Rosie Perez? Any reason to revive this old 1975 Terrence McNally play?
I sort of don't think so. I'm a huge Terrence McNally fan, let me say that right off the bat. I really like his stuff a lot, especially his older stuff, but this play is thin, and the set is great. 3 tiers of doors and the steam coming out, and it's terrific. But it just kind of it's set in a gay bathhouse, and it's dated, and it's like Italian stereotypes, and it's disco music, and it's people running around and slamming doors, and it just.
As an Italian American, do you find that offensive?
It's kind of hard to offend me, but it kind of did. It was just, and I feel like it kind of clunked along. It just, I don't know. I feel like Joe Mantello is not the world's greatest comedy director.
Well, there seems to be some evidence for that. That production of Odd Couple he did a couple of years ago that clunked along too.
This offended me as a theater-goer American, this production, and partly for those reasons. It was this great, big set, huge, 3-story Scott Pask creation.
It was great, right?
There were 24 actors on stage. I don't know what the Roundabout spent on this, but it was a lot. And they spent it on this? I mean, there are these choices that get made sometimes at the Roundabout that do boggle the mind. This is what I wrote about these two, about Pygmalion and the Ritz, where the Roundabout is hugely important and influential in the city, in the country, in fact. It's one of the biggest nonprofit theaters we have. And we need this company to do well. And when it does something like Pygmalion and does it well...
Which it should be doing. I mean, you can't get enough Shaw as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Shaw, Ibsen, Moliere. I mean, there are these great... The Roundabout is in this unique position where it has the resources to do what the city most needs, which is the great modern classics that don't really get done much, and when they do get done by these little companies that can't really do them especially well. So when you see something like the Ritz, it just again reinforces, you know, there must be something better that this company can do with its tax status and its
I want to say that this is something that we've touched on before recently, and we've invited Todd Hames.
We're going to put him in the hot seat to defend the choices at the Roundabout.
No, and he did, you know, I mean, I think no more highly of anyone in the theater than Todd Hames, and we're going to have him come on, I hope. That being said, my problem with the Ritz, having been a bit older than you and having been around New York for the AIDS crisis, was, you know, as a friend of mine said as we were leaving, and then they all died. The bathhouses, which were instrumental in spreading the AIDS epidemic, are not funny. It's practically like, for someone who was around then, a World Trade Center comedy. It's a very creepy thing to look back on. I'm not a gay man, but I think a lot of them don't look back on it with fondness.
Right. Well, it's interesting too that we've reached a point where you can even consider putting a play like this on stage.
Yeah. Sometimes though, it's interesting to look back at a play that may be a second-rate play, but it's an artifact and it tells you something about that time. And could you not argue that the Ritz is showing you gay culture pre-AIDS, where people are now, for the first time, being able to be open about their sexuality, and they're just having a hell of a time with it?
You could, if it were a hell of a time, and I think in some
I
think in some other people's hands it could be. I think if Christopher Ashley had directed, perhaps. That said, I really liked Rosie Perez. I thought she was fun. I thought she was quite game and had a good time with, especially her whole. Act 1 and her medley when she
does all the disco stuff.
which they sort of rewrote for her, mixing together a bunch of songs and tailored to her, so she wasn't just doing what Rita Moreno did. And I thought she had a lot of fun with that.
Jumping over to the Manhattan Theatre Club, they've just opened Teresa Rebeck, a writer that I like very much, a new play of hers called Mauritius, about, we call it in the business the stamp play, because it's about the two famous stamps that are in someone's possession, and the machinations to try to get hold of these valuable stamps. Is it any good, or are we talking TV kind of writing here?
Maybe a little TV kind of writing, but good play. I had a good time. I mean, I don't think it attempted to do, you know, it's not trying to knock Pygmalion off its perch, but it's pretty good. The criticism that I saw from in a few of the reviews was that this was Mamet light. That's not bad, I think. Mamet light. I love David Mamet, and if someone can get, you know, a half of the way towards what makes his plays so great. And, you know, it's directed by someone who knows what he's doing, and there's a great cast on stage to perform it.
That director is
Doug Hughes.
Doug Hughes, yeah.
And Bobby Cannavale was excellent in the play, and so were some of the other actors, too.
Is the Manhattan Theatre Club justified in doing this kind of just entertaining, old-fashioned, well-made play?
I think completely. She's a playwright I've been impressed with for a couple of years, and I think I've enjoyed watching her develop and tackle different things kind of stylistically. I think she's kind of all over the map, and this one really impressed me. TV, like, it's not surprising because she writes and produces for Law and Order, so that...
Or she did. She left,
so that element was certainly there.
I love that actress, Alison Pill.
She is
a wonderful young actress.
She keeps showing, she can do more and more things from show to show. I think that's promising. I mean, she's very young. She's 22, 21. I don't know. And to have that kind of poise that young is promising.
Hey, a question that I want to ask you guys. It's going on now in the drama critic circle. There's this movement, I'm told, to stop the producers from wrenching your quotes out of context in their advertisements. I know that Linda Weiner was upset, the Walmart people, the Walmartopia, what's that thing called?
Walmartopia.
They took her quote and she panned it, but it made it sound as if it were great. And the Grease people took a lot of quotes and from reviews that trashed Grease and made it sound that was good. And I know Howard Kissel is, I like to call it the Kissel Commission. He's heading up for the Drama Critics Circle to determine what can be done about these terrible producers wrenching your quotes out of context. Isn't it fair game, though, for a producer? You guys trash the shows. If they can find a little way to use your stuff to help their box office, aren't they within their rights to do that?
Personally, I think it's kind of difficult to enforce something like that. I think it's something that I guess has to be discussed, but I don't see how we could, I don't know, I don't want to speak for the Drama Critics Circle, but...
No, speak for Melissa Rose Bernardo.
But personally, I don't get quoted much, so I've never had, I guess I don't write very quotable copy. I've never had my quotes butchered or misrepresented or anything like that. So honestly, if a producer wants to take my stuff and...
Put it on a bus?
Put it on a bus, I guess they're welcome to. If they do something hideous with it, then, you know, I'll unleash my wrath appropriately.
Oh, that's good. I mean, don't you just love to pick up the Sunday New York Times there, Jeremy, and open up to some big ad for a show and see brilliant Jeremy McCarter, New York
orange
magazine.
Juice goes flying and I tear it up. And
See, that happens to him all the time.
no, but the problem is you have to think that the reason why they put these things in the ads is because someone thinks that a person flipping through their Sunday Times will see this and see the string of quotes and have some confidence in the publication that's listed below it and think, oh, well, if the Times or New York Magazine or Entertainment Weekly or someone likes it, then how could this be bad? Because people trust critics, and that's their mistake number one.
Yes.
And this will act on this. And so it ends up being corrosive of the flimsy bit of, you know,
integrity you have left.
That's right. So, so I think, yeah, I mean, up to a point, I think there's something charming and raffish about the way that producers, you know, will twist. I mean, the like David Merrick tradition. I mean, who knows what the august Drama Critics Circle will decide to do about this? But there is a way in which now, with the websites and things, I do think that producers should be aware of the fact that we have a chance now to quickly clarify what we think about their plays, should they take our words out of context.
Mm-hmm. Or you could go back to the play if they've taken your words out of context and say, you know, they took my words out of context, so I want to go back and take another swipe at this thing.
Well,
that's hammer home the point.
That's what I mean. I mean, there's a way in which we now have the, we now have at least, you know, I think all the New York publications have sophisticated enough websites that are read by a lot of people that we can make it very, very excruciatingly clear what we actually think about their play. Something to keep in mind.
All right, just a couple of minutes left. Can you tell us some of the things that haven't opened yet, but that you're really looking forward to seeing?
I'm probably most looking forward to The Seafarer, the Conor McPherson play.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Conor McPherson fan. I loved Shining City last season. I'm kind of a sucker for a really good, like, storytelling play. It just...
And this is coming from London, right?
Yeah.
Is that the National Theatre, I think, The Seafarer?
And it just, I find his plays just kind of suck you in. I'm not, even ghost stories, the whole kind of supernatural element, I'm not into that. Like, I never watched Buffy or any of those things, but his stuff just casts this kind of spell on me. I'm really looking forward to that, I think, more than anything else this fall.
He's highbrow Buffy McPherson, I think. Jeremy, what do you got your sights on?
The new Stoppard.
Rock and Roll.
I hear I didn't see it in London, but I've heard it's the good Stoppard. It's the top shelf Stoppard, which is good. And the Pinter revival in December has an amazing cast.
The Homecoming.
Yes.
The Homecoming.
Interesting, though, you know, you could say that for all the dumping on the theater that people sometimes do, you see a lot of young actors, really good young actors, on the stages today.
Good young actors, great directors who are, you know, 25, 30, 35, and don't get the chances because of the plays that are put on to show what they can do. There are a lot of things broken, sort of structurally off about the New York theater, but the availability of young talent is not one of those things. Yeah. It's astonishing how many great young actors and directors and playwrights there are around out there.
And I should say critics, too.
Very sweet of you.
Melissa Rose Bernardo from Entertainment Weekly, thanks for being our guest on Theater Talk.
Thank you.
Jeremy McCarter from New York, thank you for joining us as well.
My pleasure.
Angus, what would